Okay, so what we do is we invest in really early stage companies. So a typical investment for us is £75,000 into a professor in a lab who has got some interesting science. And we have done it for a very long time. Since 1983, I started this, and we currently have a fund called OT SEIS, which makes SEIS investments in these things. And that is our 14th fund that we run. So we do have unrivaled experience of doing this thing. And it's not entirely easy investing in very early stage science companies. These are some of the investments that we have made on the right. And when we started this fund, it was just all talk. We said it was going to go well. Now we are able to see that it is beginning to go well. And so the statistics on the left are that we've invested 2.5 million so far in these companies. After the tax relief, you get these huge tax breaks, 50% back on your investment. So the net cost is just under 1.5 million. And the current valuation of the companies based on the latest share price that's paid by other investors is 4.5 million. And the difference between the net cost and the current valuation is the capital gain. And because it's SEIS and EIS, it's all tax-free. So this has probably been one of the best investments that one could have made in the last 3 years in the UK. Of course, past performance is no guide to future performance, and it may not go so well in future, but I think it will, because we've been doing it for a long time. We haven't changed anything that we do. We're just doing the same thing that we've always done, but now taking advantage of the SEIS tax reliefs, which are transformational. We've made 22 investments in 22 companies, and we've had 2 failures. And the losses on the 2 that failed because of the tax reliefs, and you get loss relief if they fail, were, I think it was £12,000 in one case, and I think £22,000 or something in the other case. And we've had 2 that have gone well, and the gains on those are in one case greater than £1 million, and in the other case greater than £500,000. So the gains vastly outweigh the losses on the failures, which is just, it's not particularly clever of us, it's just the way the SEIS scheme works. And as you may know, you're allowed to invest up to £100,000 a year in SEIS companies, and it's sensible to try to take that allowance if you can. The scheme may not last forever.
Those figures over a 3-year period?
That's since the start. We've been going just over 3 years. And I'm going to get, here's my partner, who's brilliant, I say it for him, and he'll tell you about a couple of the investments.
So I'll explain also how the fund works. So when you invest, you don't get a share in companies that we've already invested in.
Yes.
You'll be invested into the next companies that come up. Typically, an investment will be spread over 7 or 8 companies, or at least that's what's happened so far. So the return, and it's not a return, it's just a current value, because this is long-term investment. If you invest now, you'll get your tax break over the first 3 years, and then you'll get your returns probably starting somewhere from 5 to 10 years out. This is long-term holding, it's not liquid, but the upsides could be really good, and it's extremely interesting. So the return that we were showing there was over the mixture of the whole fund. So some of the investments were only made a few months before. So I haven't gone through and calculated what the internal rate of return is, but jolly high, I can tell you that. So this is just some examples of companies that we've invested in to give you a flavour of the kind of things that we're backing. I'll tell you about 2 of them, and I'll hand over to Lucius for the last one. So expend. How many people here have ever had to fill in an expense form for their work? And if you haven't put your arms up, that's fine. I know you have. And is there anyone who didn't hate doing so? No one who didn't hate doing so. I didn't think so. So what Expend have done is they've rewritten the software that underlies the machines where you make your payment with your card. It's that software that hasn't been changed for the last 15 or 20 years, and so they're still operating in the world of hours and days to settle stuff. With an expend card, your company can give you an expend card. They can control very closely where the expenses are made, so it's very difficult for people to make expenses they shouldn't have made. Once the expense is made, their phone is notified. You fill in the last few details, and all that information is entered directly into the company's accounts. The people running the finances in the company will know exactly what the latest news is.
But you photograph the receipt, you should say.
Well, that's what, if required. If required, it will ask you, could you just take a photo of that? There's no paperwork, and the taxman is perfectly happy with this because it's all taken care of. Now, the interesting thing there is we invested. There was a couple of guys who had lots of experience in the field. A man who designed the architecture for the first prepaid Visa card in South Africa is heading up the technical on this. They were having trouble raising money to start. They just needed a little lump sum to get the thing in motion. We were able to make that investment at a pre-money valuation of £375,000, so very small. They got going. Immediately they got going, people understood what they were doing. So the next round of funding was at 2 million valuation. We didn't invest in that because it was just small sums coming in. And then this year someone came in and invested at what turned out to be 4.5 million pre-money, because he was an expert from the industry, understood what they had done, looked at the structure, said, you've done this all brilliantly, it's going to transform the underlying operations of banks. And that's happened. We're expecting a next step up for them. So that's one. So it started off 2 guys, not in a room because they were just working from home. There's now 8 people working in London, and they're getting lots of interest from big companies. Combat, we invested in right at the start. They had finished the initial technical development, and they had done their first clinical trial. It was unusual that it was almost late stage for us. That's now in use in 90 hospitals throughout Europe. There are going to be 30 distributors by the end of the year. They are changing the odds for patients with bladder cancer from a 75% chance of recurrence of the disease to something like a 15% chance of recurrence. That's a big swing in the odds. That's that's an example. We've got other companies that are, which we can tell you about later. But MPMP is an interesting example which came about through our very long involvement in early stage companies.
Yes. Okay, so very quickly. So MPMP stems from an investment which I originally made in 1986. And the investment was £30,000 in an engineer who wanted to make a machine, a gas atomizer for making powdered metal. So these are huge machines, and they're 3 stories high. You melt metal at the top, you blast it with supersonic argon, and it turns into dust. And it turned out that was the only, the £30,000 which I invested was the only money he needed. And his company is now one of the 2 leading companies in the world making these atomizers, which we sell to everybody, the Chinese and the Americans and the Germany and so on. They cost typically up to £2 million each. And I've been a director of this company ever since the start. And for the last 20 years, I've been having an argument with the funder. And I said, look, instead of selling these atomizers, we've developed the technology. We've got the best atomizers in the world. We should use the technology to produce powdered metal ourselves. And finally, I've won that argument. And so we've formed this new company. We rang the revenue and said, look, SEIS is meant to be for new companies. This is kind of 30 years old in a way, but we want to do this new activity. Can we form it through a new company? And the revenue said, yes, that's absolutely fine. So we formed a new company, and MPMP, and this atomizer, which we call Bertha, is probably the most sophisticated atomizer in the world. It has a vacuum at the top, and it's got all kinds of special features. And we can already produce standard powders. We are hoping to be able to produce titanium powder, and to suspend the 1 minute. Okay, so suspend the titanium in a magnetic field so that it doesn't touch anything, and then pass it through a magnetic nozzle. That is technically very difficult to do, but if we can do it, we'll be able to produce pure titanium powder, which is something that's very difficult to do. And I should say the demand for powders metals has been rising for the last 50 years, but now it's suddenly rising very fast because of all this additive layer manufacturing, printing parts in 3D in metal. Anyway, so and the capacity of this single machine, if we can make it work, is £100 million a year. So it's quite an exciting venture. That's probably enough. You get a flavour.
Yeah, so those are the ones the ones that are coming up, investments we're going to make. So if you joined our fund really quickly, you might still get in. It's a handheld device which allows to test accurately for anemia. It's the same accuracy as the big lab-based machines, but can be used everywhere. That's out of Imperial College. And there's a spin-out from Oxford that has a microscope that is going to revolutionise biological microscopy. You'd like to
We're going to make that investment on Monday.
So you'd have to be really quick for that
very
one.
quick.
But don't worry, we have a steady stream of fantastic opportunities. If you'd like to come and find out more about some of the ones we've made in the past, do come and visit us at stand number 76.
74.
74?
74.
You'll find us.
Yeah.